So my name is Esther Kitto. I'm the VP of Clinical Operations at Resolution Therapeutics. Resolution is a small biotech, British-backed biotech, set up about 4 years ago, and we are developing regenerative macrophage therapy for patients with end-stage liver disease. I think at the beginning of our trials, we spend a lot of time working with patient advocacy groups, and we share with them the patient information sheets. We also share with them patient brochures. So we have brochures about how our drug works, how our drug is made, what's going to happen to them in the trial. But also, I think on top of that, we actually have started to share our protocols with patient advocacy groups, so that they can look at the number of interventions, the number of procedures, how long patients are in the trials. So, engaging with patient advocacy groups and really trying to bring them not only into the patient-facing material, but looking at the design of trials as well is something that we're trying to do. I think the issue of non-enrolling sites isn't new. I think most companies have experienced this at some stage or the other. And certainly if sites do enroll, trials a lot of the time do not meet their expected timelines. So when we look at kind of like how trials are enrolling and how we're identifying patients, I think we're not doing anything different. I think that, we have a very standard model. Patients either come in by referral or they're coming through a natural treatment pathway, and that really hasn't changed over the last 20 years. So I think that these new regulations whereby we talk about inclusion and diversity, what we are also doing by diversity is actually widening patient participation, going out to a much broader reach of patients, and therefore you should increase the size of a funnel, and we should have more patients coming into trials and then less sites that don't enroll. So I think it's purely by really acknowledging what we're doing hasn't changed. We need to change it. The regulations are going to help us do that, and therefore hopefully we'll address the non-enrolling sites question. The NHS being a very decentralised process is a huge challenge. It takes time working with lots of separate departments, such as radiology, pharmacy, the CRF. I think that all takes time. They all have to consult, they all have to review, and they're all working. They're all very, very busy. I think within each trust, maybe within each hospital even, it would be useful to have this activity centralised. Have one person responsible for all of it, doing all that coordination. It then becomes standard. It's not reinventing the wheel every time, and hopefully that will really start to speed up things, because the front end with the MHRA and the ethics approval is working. It's the time, the duration after that. So maybe acknowledging that, the hospitals are busy, the departments are dispersed, and centralising it within each hospital or trust could certainly help to improve that delay in startup time. I see it really in terms of kind of like really improving patient engagement and patient retention. I think if we can find ways of keeping our patients involved, if we can find ways in making sure that the patients, our studies are patient-centric, so we're acknowledging the burden that patients go through when they participate in trials. I think if we can harness those activities, then I think patient retention will also improve. And I think that is something that we are very keen to do, because the challenge is not just finding the patients and enrolling them. We need the patients to complete, to have the data, and a lot of patients drop out of trials. I think I read a paper only recently that 30% of patients drop out of trials, not because of AEs, not because of other issues, but because they're tired. They don't want to continue. So it's not the treatment or the effects, it's they want to discontinue. So that is something where this would really help in the future. Yeah, I don't think that's a massive problem for biotechs. Biotechs would love to have the data. That's a nice problem to have. we're accustomed to working with vendors. We rely on vendors for EDC and for IVRS and lots of activities. So I think that we're quite innovative, we're quite flexible, and I think that would be a really nice problem to have, but we just need the data.